Follow the conversation. This is Afternoons on the Dove.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Afternoons on the Dove. Well, today you have both of us. You have Perry and Paulina, who's the producer of this program, and we are delighted today to have a very special guest with us because so often, Paulina, we talk about women's health. So I have you in the studio to help me talk about men's health. Yes. And I am delighted that you have scheduled with us today Dr. Sal Giorgianni. He's a leading pharmacologist and is also science director for the Men's Health Network. He earned his undergraduate and doctoral degrees from Columbia University. He's also vice chairman of the American Public Health Association Men's Health Section. And he lives in Florida with his family, and he's just recently brand new again, a grandfather. We were talking about that before we went on the air today, so he's being Skyped with us today. And let me just say to our viewers and to our radio listeners, if you want to join the program, we welcome you to be a part of it. You can call and ask Dr. Giorgianni any question you may have. The number is 776-5368. Doctor, what a joy to have you, sir, and congratulations on being a grandpa again.
Well, thanks for having me on. I love talking about men's health, and especially since I'm the grandparent of a brand new baby boy as well as a brand new baby daughter. So thanks for having me on.
Well, that's great. Nice to have you. I am so interested in some of the things you have to say because earlier in the day we were going through some of the material that you sent us about how men are actually in poorer health than women. And thanks for the good news. What can we do about this?
Well, it's absolutely true. If you look back in the 1920s, the average lifespan of a woman was maybe about a year longer than that of a man. Now, in 2008, last time that number was counted, men actually were living 6 years less than women in America. And that's despite all of the access to health care we have, all of the technology, all of the information that's really out there. Men still in America live sicker and die younger than they really should. And most of that, Perry, I'm afraid, is from preventable diseases. Why is a complex matter, and we'll talk a little bit about it, but one of the things I want the audience to keep in mind as we talk about this is men really have to take a page out of the women's health playbook. Women in the 60s decided it's their responsibility to take care of themselves, and they did it. And now men have to take that message to heart and start taking care of themselves and their sons.
Is it an ego thing with men, or is it really a physiological problem or difference?
Well, it's as so many things in our lives. It's both nature and nurture. Men are physiologically hardwired to be hunter-gatherers. So a lot of the way we behave and a lot of the way we play with toys. I was watching my grandson. I have a 2-year-old grandson. Birthday is tomorrow, believe it or not. And he was playing with dinosaur toys. My 2-year-old granddaughter just doesn't do that. So right out of the box, if you will, right out of the womb, the kids really have sort of a tendency to be hunter-gatherers. So as a hunter-gatherer, men tend to want to ignore physical symptoms of hurt and pain because they physiologically or by nature want to go out and provide for their families, and you can't really do that if you're in pain. But then there's the acculturation issue. We are intelligent beings. We should be able to manage a little bit of our genetic hardwiring every now and then. And one of the concerns I have is that young boys very early on are acculturated to not pay attention to the symptoms of bad health. What do you hear when Johnny falls down? All too often you hear daddy or mommy or anybody saying, "Come on, Johnny, get up, suck it up, take it like a man." So early on that naturing part of us is reinforced. Later on, guys like sports, women love sports too. But then what do we often hear when we're listening to a ball game? A player gets hurt, football player gets hurt, breaks a collarbone, gets back on the field, has a couple of concussions, gets back on the field. And then we hear the announcers talking about how, what a great athlete that is. He's out there playing hurt. Isn't that a wonderful thing? If you go back and you listen to women's sports, it's not that women don't play as hard as men. I think they do every bit as hard, or they're not as athletic as men, or not committed. But you rarely hear a woman athlete who's hurt coming back on and playing that much. They do, of course, but it's much less common, and I think much less encouraged by sports announcers. And that goes on and on and on into many endeavors of men in men's life, that not paying attention to the symptoms of bad health is acculturated into the guys, unfortunately.
Well, the culture aspect is definitely interesting, but what about nature? I want to go back to that because, like we were talking before the program, this morning we had a report on our morning show that man's immune system is different than women, and men are actually born with a different set of chromosomes, and women have more resistance towards disease. Is that something that's true, or can you talk about it?
Yeah, there is. I can talk a little bit to that. The survival rate of even in utero, as an egg is being fertilized, of a fertilized male egg is less robust than it is for a woman, a female egg. And oftentimes you'll see males are just not as robust as females. Their immunologic systems do have a tendency to be take a longer time to mature than women do. So there are a lot of several physiologic factors, psychological factors that point to significant differences in men. There are even some interesting reports now about testosterone levels in men when they become fathers. They go down. So that they're less aggressive, they're more fatherly in nature. So the hormonal balance in men versus women predisposes men, favors men having heart conditions later on. So there are a lot of things that we already know, and I suspect a lot of things that we really don't know already that indicate that men are not necessarily really the stronger sex, just they have more muscle mass, and that doesn't necessarily mean stronger in a health sense.
You mentioned hormones. Is that a problem for men as well, or a bigger problem than for women?
Well, I guess it depends on your stage of life. I guess where people are just exploring the implications of testosterone, drops in testosterone in men, and the implications for cardiovascular disease, psychological circumstances. It is very controversial, the concept of male menopause, when you have a precipitous drop after 50 or in the 60s of testosterone level. What does that really mean? But I did find the recent studies, and we really have not studied the impact of hormone levels on men's overall health, wellness, as we have in women, quite frankly, as much. But I found it very interesting that, again, you look at nature and hardwiring, that very recently published studies show that testosterone levels, what we usually consider making a guy, drop down after a man becomes a father to a significantly lower level, and that tends to influence their nurturing responses. And then after a certain period of time, those testosterone levels rise up again, and that influences their desire to procreate again. So it's a very fascinating thing, and I don't think, Polina, that we really know all of the implications. But yes, testosterone level drops have been implicated with problems with heart conditions and lipid levels.
Let me say to our viewers and our listeners, if you'd like to join the conversation, the phone number is 776-5368. What a delight and an honor to have with us today Dr. Sal Giorgianni, who's talking about men's health versus women's health. Doctor, one of the things that immediately comes to mind to me is that we've done so many shows on health, and primarily women's health. I'll be honest with that. We deal more with the women's health issues than we do with men. But it appears to me sometimes modern medicine may be interrupting what is to naturally occur, and we're doing it with a lot of supplementation. Do you have a comment on that?
If you could be a little more specific, I don't want to get off away from what you're saying, because we.
Well, I'm just thinking, if we just did the hormone issue alone, I know there's a lot of hormone adjustment going on with women and estrogen levels during the various stages of life, and now that's moving into what they call, I guess, is it andropause or something like that for men, when maybe it's just nature taking its course and we're trying to keep the youth alive too longer.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with you, Perry.
Yeah.
I remember when as a young fella, several decades ago, I practiced pharmacy in an Upper East Side part of Manhattan, and I remember the volumes and volumes of hormone replacements for women that we would dispense there. It was just shocking to me, and it was very early on when folks were starting to use women hormone creams to also forestall the aging process. You know, and now you're right, what we call andropause in men, or which is that drop off in testosterone. You're seeing touted the use of supplemental testosterone as a patch or some other formulations to invigorate men. So I do think that we as a society, and I don't think it's just American society, I think it's society in general, do value youth rather than the wisdom of folks with some gray hair. So there is a case for that. Is that bad? Is that good? I'm not a sociologist. I have my own views, which is, as my grandmother would say, everything in moderation. So if you're not hurting the rest of your health or not recognizing the realities of your own mortality, I think that that's probably not an unreasonable adoption of technology.
All right, before we take a break, let's deal with the subject of heart disease.
Sure.
As I told you before we just went on the air, I was under the impression that heart disease was more of a silent killer of women than men, but not so, according to your numbers you've given us here.
Well, yeah, maybe we can talk about it before or later, whatever you want, but specifically to heart disease, men are leading the pack in terms of heart disease, men versus women. There's some interesting statistics from the Centers of Disease Control, which is a federal government agency that tracks the prevalence or the occurrence of different medical conditions in the U.S. population. And that shows that men have a much higher tendency to have medical conditions, heart conditions, than women. It had been said by women's health advocates, who, by the way, have been very vocal about their concerns about how we address their health issues, that women who come to a physician's office with symptoms that in a guy would be very quickly recognized as symptoms that are a heart condition, some years ago were being dismissed because physicians then were trained to think that certain symptoms, chest pain, radiating, jaw pain, sweating, other kinds of shortness of breath, they were symptoms classic of a heart attack in men. So what we call epidemiologically, when you study the broad population, how broad populations represent their disease conditions, it was generally misinterpreted, or so many physicians were misinterpreting the symptoms that women came to them with as something other than a heart attack. And that gave the false impression in the media that women had more cardiovascular disease than men. And quite frankly, the exact opposite is true. So yes, women certainly need to be paid attention to, but men primarily need to recognize that they're not out of the woods here, not at all.
All right, let me take a quick break here, Doctor. We'll be back. I'd like to have you just comment a little bit more about the heart disease. Is it because men just think they can tough out a bad pain versus women may respond to pain quicker, or maybe a shortness of breath or something like that? Anyway, let me just say to our listeners and viewers, if you want to join us, we'd love to have you be a part of the program. The phone number is 776-5368. A delight to have with us today Dr. Sal Giorgianni, and we're talking about men's health versus women's health, and it comes to find out we guys aren't too healthy out there. We're going to talk more about it, and you can join us. We'll be right back.
Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove. Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
Well, we're delighted to have with us today Dr. Sal Giorgianni. He's a men's health specialist, and he's concerned about the silent crises in men's health, seemingly that men are just not as healthy as women, and there's a lot of contributing factors. So, guys, listen up, and you may want to give us a call. The phone number is 776-5368, and we shouldn't take this lightly, and we should be very concerned about our health. I find it very interesting, Doctor, in this health-conscious society that we live in culture, the men are apparently just not paying attention to it. And I asked you, as we were going into the break, back to the heart disease issue, if a man gets that little bit proverbial chest pain, maybe he overexercised. If he's short of breath, maybe he ran too far. At what point do we take it seriously and check ourselves out?
You know, it's classic for almost any medical condition, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, skin cancers, any medical condition, even simple allergies. Men do not go to the physicians as early on in the course of a disease as women do. I don't understand why.
We're tough.
Although my wife says I'm just as bad as anybody she's ever met. But I think it goes back to that nurturing, that nature sort of thing we spoke about early on, where men are hardwired as hunter-gatherers to ignore symptoms, and that nurturing thing where men are constantly reinforced through the media that the epitome of a man is what you see in Maxim, and not a man who's sensitive and in tune with their body. So, but classically, men do not go to a doctor. When they see the first signs of a problem, they let it wait. And that's really bad for a couple of reasons. One, that not only can you put yourself at greater risk for significant damage to heart or brain or stomach and intestinal system, but you can also make it much, much harder to treat the disease. So the longer, what's that old, there was this great commercial for a motor oil for a car oil, pay me now or pay me later. Either change the oil every 3,000 miles or pay the consequences. Well, same sort of thing for the guys. And unfortunately, the women get it, but the guys don't get it. And that is a real significant public health problem.
Okay.
So the women get it, the men don't go to hospitals, but isn't it responsibility of a wife in a way to take care of her husband? Or do you suggest men should take care of themselves? What's your suggestion here?
I'm an optimistic realist, Paulina. I absolutely believe that women should help the guys that they love go to health care. I did an interesting study once where we were looking for ways to bring men into free health care screenings. We were offering free screenings in a community environment. And we sent out a mailer to the men in their pay stubs, and we sent out a posted note in their workplace that we were going to do these free screenings. And we got maybe 10 or 15% of the targeted men to come in for these free total top-to-bottom screenings. We then sent a letter out to their homes addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Feelgood. And I got to tell you, we had almost 60%, that's unheard of the targeted audience come in for the health screenings. And you can bet your socks that who was dragging the guys in? It was their wives, their girlfriends, their daughters. So I am a realist. You can't change decades and decades of inattention overnight. But the guys are just dying. There was an interesting study that just came out this year of the average lifespan in several states. And they looked at the average lifespan of a man born in 2008 in Mississippi and various other counties. But the average lifespan of a male child born in 2008 is anticipated to be in northeastern Mississippi 66 years. 66 years. That's not even getting to the close age of Social Security. So this isn't trivial, and the women and young women out there who love the guys around them really need to be encouraging.
All right. Let me ask you this, Doctor. Stress.
Yeah.
We've dealt a lot with it. How does this play into these numbers? Do you think it's a major contributing factor to men's health?
Absolutely. I am and many other people in health professions believe that there is an intimate, inexorable link between the psychological health of an individual and the physical health of an individual. It was always a factor in women, men, and everybody else. So again, because we're talking about men's health today, we'll just focus on the guys. Men are under significant stress at work. They're under significant stress at home in general. And even in a good economy, there's significant stresses to succeed in work and get ahead and all of that. I also think that, regrettably, with the horrible economy that we have now, and the number of good men who are want to be good providers, who are out of work, that stress has just gone right through the roof. And I can see it in gentlemen that I know personally who are out of work through no fault of their own. It's just the economy. Their symptoms creep up on them, and they can be modest symptoms of stomach problems or anxiety or restlessness, but then these can proceed to other issues, depression, significant depression, and maybe we can talk a little bit about suicide rates in men, which is also very underappreciated. But that anxiety, the economy, the inability to provide for their family, and men do associate very closely with their jobs. They are the job, if you will. I think that leads to, it's going to lead to a lot of increase in depression in men. And just as we spoke earlier about how certain symptoms in the medical office in women were not being interpreted properly as heart problems, I think on the other hand, you have certain symptoms that men come to in the medical office that are not properly interpreted as significant clinical depression. It may start out as the blues and then progress to some very serious depressive conditions. So I am very concerned about that.
Well, speaking of the suicide rate, according to the figures you sent us, it's almost 4.5 to 1 men to women. And what's so interesting to me is that being involved in ministry work as we are here at this station, we find out with absolutely, seemingly no symptoms. We don't see any signs. I mean, they may be there, but we are absolutely shocked so often when we hear of men who have committed suicide. There seems to be so little warning that it's coming.
Well, go back to what we were chatting about early on. What's the societal expectation of men? Not to talk about it. What's the societal expectation for pain? Psychic pain or physical pain? Ignore it. Shove it off. Get on with it. Play the game. These are messages that are inculcated into us, again, hardwired through nature, but inculcated into us for a very, very long time. I know stories of young military men who have pneumonia and have to go walk in the rain and snow to go. But you're right, the silent killers are probably the most dangerous things that healthcare providers have to address. And unfortunately, all too many healthcare providers don't recognize the early symptoms, and they can also be physiologic. There are what we call somatic symptoms of depression, where the body is reacting to a depressive condition with various aches and pains and desire not to go to the movies, or lack of enjoyment of anything that used to be enjoyable. Here again, as we chatted with Paulina, the women in these guys' lives play a key role in helping the guys just talk about it. Guys don't naturally do that, and they need someone they love to help them talk about it.
Well, we see how much pressure society places on women, and in many areas. For example, abortion. Women is usually responsible for the most part, and we've had programs on that. And expecting fathers also, we don't really talk about it. We don't really have programs for fathers. And I don't know if, go ahead, if you want to speak to that, because if you think about it, men should be just as prepared to become a parent as women.
Absolutely, even more. We spoke about my son who just had a baby daughter. On the Marine base, they offered a course. They called it Daddy Boot Camp. What a wonderful program. And he already had a kid. But he is self-aware enough, and he's a Marine sergeant. He's not he's a guy, but he's self-aware, maybe because of the way his family unit functioned, that he needs to go to that course. And he said his buddies teased him in a jocular way, but he went. Under Title X, of course, there are a lot of services that are ostensibly equally available to men and women under the equal access clauses of federal government rules and regulations. But unfortunately, the way it's being administered in all too many public health departments, and I hope we get some mail on that, because I do think it is a shame, men are not given the same amount of time, resources, and access in family planning clinics, in family development clinics, in child rearing classes, as they really should be. And those most disadvantaged in our society, who rely on public health systems more than private hospital systems, are very much disadvantaged. There is a program that we at the Men's Health Network are aware of in Tampa that is looking to address that particular issue. They have men involved as advocating to bring men into the health clinic, the public health system, to help teach them how to be good fathers and good nurturing new fathers in particular. One of the fellows I worked with, who I have a great amount of esteem for, is an author, and he's written a book on expectant fathering. He's a former Marine himself, and it's an excellent, excellent book. But there's just not enough of those tools out there for fathers, and there isn't anybody really encouraging them to utilize them.
Doctor, let's take the top 4 of your categories: heart disease, cancer, injuries, and stroke. Well, I guess we could leave injuries out of it, but take strokes: heart disease, cancer, and strokes. Yeah. How much of those rise in numbers on the men's side, which are alarming compared to the women's side, is due to diet, just poor eating?
Oh, boy, significant amount. When you look at the perfect storm of obesity and diabetes, and then add in stress, you have a huge confounding factors. The influence of poor eating habits, the advertising promotion of non-healthy habits to men and boys is, I believe, a public health shame. Some students of mine and I did a study where we looked at advertising and promotion of healthy behaviors to women and girls versus men and boys in print magazines, popular magazines, People Magazine, Newsweek, Time, up and down the spectrum of that. And we found that there was more advertising, significantly more advertising to women and girls about healthy messaging than there was to boys. Almost, well, a little bit more than twice as much advertising on health matters going to women and girls than to boys and men. We're doing a follow-up study, which was suggested by one of my wonderful students, to look at the amount of unhealthy advertising going to women and girls versus men and boys. And I think we all know what the conclusion will be, but no one's ever studied that. No one's called that to the point. It's a shame.
Let me interrupt here. I got to take a quick break. We'll come back because I'd like for you to further comment on that. I mean, some things that are so obvious, not only in the alcohol and the tobacco consumption, but just flat bad foods. It seems like we're eating on the run and calling this somehow healthy, and maybe you can comment to that. So we'll be right back. Dr. Giorgianni is with us today, and if you want to join the conversation, you're welcome to do that. But we'll be right back after this short timeout.
Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove. Follow the conversation. This is Afternoon on the Dove.
Well, today we're talking about men's health, which is a hot topic to say the least. And Dr. Giorgianni, who's with us today from Florida, is a specialist in this area and wants to make us aware of how alarming this is. Let me also say to our listeners and our viewers today, I got to make a little bit of a housekeeping announcement. At 1:30 this afternoon, on the actual terrestrial delivery of our product, both radio and TV, we will be off the air, but you can still watch and listen to the Dove at the Dove website at theDove.us, but we will be off the normal air for most of the afternoon. As you know, we've been talking about our main tower has to get painted. So we'll have a bunch of workmen on top of the tower, and we can't be broadcasting from the tower, but you can still watch us and listen to us at theDove.us. Doctor, I want to come back to this diet thing because I don't know why we're not getting it with all of the things. Yesterday, I just flew home from the UK late yesterday, and I was in the Manchester airport, and it was so interesting to me there in one of the shops. I mean, in the biggest signs you can imagine possible, it says smoking kills, and then on another sign that says smoking kills and possibly kills those around you, but yet the cigarettes were flying off the shelf. Need I say any more? I don't know why we're not getting some of this stuff that we're so alarming, and why men don't get it.
Doesn't happen to me. we are astounding as a society, as a species, to self-deluding ourselves as to what happens. We sometimes look at us adults, and the older we are, the more we look at adolescents and adolescent behavior, and we all have heard about the invincible teen syndrome. Mm-hmm. So I think that carries through into our 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. We still want to be youthful. Being youthful is risk-taking. And then we also, men and women, say it's not going to happen to me. Well, it can happen to you. So we are all very, very good, I'm afraid, at dissuading ourselves from doing the right thing. Look, aspirin, taking one aspirin a day is probably one of the most important things men and women over 50s and their 40s and 50s can do to prevent stroke. What a debilitating, horrible thing to have a stroke or a heart attack. Yet only 12% of men, it's estimated, take aspirin. It's not a matter of cost. It's not a matter of advertising. It's not a matter of access. It's on every pharmacy shelf in America, and it costs practically nothing, but men don't do it. But yet, singing the praises of getting a free ice cream cone with a double cheeseburger and fries is all the rage in the past couple of weeks. So we really, really, really need to focus on that. And spouses and partners, again, are probably the most important support network. The family is the most important support network for those healthy behaviors.
Well, you talked about advertisement targeting women. What about bodily image? When I think about all the magazines, you often see women, skinny equals pretty. And then when you speak about men, it's not always the same. It's okay for a guy to be overweight. It's okay for a guy not to have the best shape because the woman next to him is going to make him look good.
Yep, you're absolutely appropriate observation, Paulina. I agree with you 100,000%. And who called it to the attention of the media, of the advertisers, that they were overly focusing on thin is in image and poor body image and fostering bulimic and other horrible, horrible behaviors? It was women. Women were concerned about their daughters. And that's what the nurturing aspect of our species hardwiring is just wonderful. The men don't really complain about, well, look, you're showing overweight tackles and linemen on the NFL and holding them up as the epitome of athletic ability, and you're showing all of these robust Rubenesque sort of guys on TV. The men don't complain about that. There are just not enough men in health practice, in public health, in private life, in the legislatures and states and Congress who advocate for healthier societal views of healthy men and boys.
Is it because you guys are afraid to be, perceived feminine? I'm asking Perry, I'm asking you. Why is it that you, especially you who know the statistics, know that women are better fighters of the disease and all that, and yet you're not taking care of yourself? Is it because you're afraid of something?
Well, I don't know. If sociologists and psychologists knew the exact answer, I think it could be addressed. I do believe that it's, as with so many things in sociology, it's very complicated. I think guys, there's no encouragement, there's no reward to guys outside in the sexual domain for looking healthy. And a lot of things that they do, the Maxim man, if you will, or the GQ man, not necessarily real healthy behaviors. It's very complicated, but also the health system doesn't encourage it very much. So I really don't know the answer to that, Paulina. I wish I did.
Well, Doctor, let's come back to you are a new grandpa. Are you proactive with your grandchildren now in this area? And I see that you have listed grandparents as secret weapons.
Yeah, grandparents, and again, let's focus on the guys because it's a conversation about men's health. Grandfathers have a special role in the hearts and minds of their grandsons and granddaughters. We are male figures. We've made it. We're a little bit older than Dad. We usually have a little bit more leisure time. We hope that continues. And we've made it. We're usually in okay health. So I think we have time to spend with our grandchildren to help them think about healthy behaviors. Those conversations Granddad has and the conversations that a grandson feels comfortable with telling secrets to Grandpa. It's not just for the granddaughters to tell secrets, but grandchildren love to tell their grandparents secrets. So I think grandparents should be aware of that special role. And again, just as women need to help the men that they love, grandparents need to help their grandsons recognize the importance of healthy behaviors. Take them out fishing. Take them out golfing with you. Do those exercises. Or if you're not in particularly good health, talk with them about why you may not be in good health and how you want them to do better than that. These are very intimate moments grandparents can have with their grandchildren.
Let me ask you this. Maybe you already are taking your message to corporate America, because I know that some corporations are getting this, and they are giving time for men during the day to maybe go to a health club, to maybe consider their diet, where they actually have large corporations that have health facilities built within. They actually have cafeterias where they're changing the diet on food that's available. Is corporate America, can they be an advocate to this?
Absolutely. Guys associate so much with their job. We are the job. It's one of the reasons the suicide rate in men post-retirement is so terribly high. But yes, job is a very important sociologic and environmental area. I think many companies, John Deere, IBM, that's many of the pharmaceutical companies I'm familiar with, they've all taken that to heart, and they have put in facilities for the guys to stay healthy. It's good business for them too. A healthy worker doesn't consume so many health expenditures as a non-healthy worker, so there's incentive. Men's Health Network has partnered with many good companies to come in and do screenings in the companies and make men aware of their conditions, and then work with the companies to put programs in place to help the men bring themselves to health. So it's one part of it is awareness, and the other is taking action. So yeah, some bits of corporate America absolutely get it.
Doctor, June is Men's Health Month, right? Correct?
Right.
What does it mean?
Well, it's interesting. Men's Health Month was lobbied for by a young woman whose father was a single parent, and she saw what her father was doing for her as a single parent, and how absolutely important it was for him to be the good father that he was. She looked back and she saw Mother's Day, and she actually, this woman actually lobbied to the point where it became a national recognized holiday. So it's a time for us to, just as we do with Mother's Day, or May, which is considered a month for moms, spend a little bit extra time thinking about how can we help Dad, how can we make him feel special, how can we do things for him on a health context that might make him stick around a little bit longer and a little bit healthier.
Well, Doctor, thank you for being with us. It's fascinating. Do you have a website or where people can contact you?
Yeah, through the Men's Health Network. That's www.menshealthnetwork.org. One big word, menshealthnetwork.org. There's a lot of very good free information there, booklets, programs, little pamphlets for women even that they can get free. And if anybody wants to contact me directly, they can certainly contact me through the Men's Health Network.
All right, and the last question, what bit of advice could you give to the man that's listening to us right now that he knows he should go get checked out, but he won't do it? Now, I'm a pilot, so I get checked out every year whether I need to or not, but some guys, they just won't go to a doctor.
Why wouldn't you treat yourself as well as you would treat your favorite automobile or your favorite piece of sporting equipment? Why not?
Excellent. Thank you, Doctor. A joy and an honor to have you. Keep up the good work, my friend, and hope to have you back real soon.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, see you later. And that's Dr. Sal Giorgianni with us today. And again, that website is
menhealthnetwork.com.
You did it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And, or is it .org? Okay, yeah, menshealthwork.org. And check that out if you need any more of that. And get on. And guys, come on, go to the doctor, get checked out. It won't take you long. Have that annual checkup. See how the old ticker's doing. Check out the blood. I have a blood exam done every year, whether I need it or not. And most of the times I do need it. So check it out. It might make the difference of several years in your life. We'll pick you up tomorrow. And don't forget, we will be going off the air at 1:30 this afternoon, but you can still watch the Dove TV on the Dove.us, and you can still listen to the Dove Radio on the Dove.us.